to the Jujiteras podcast. My name is Stacy. I am a Jujitera, and this is my podcast. For today's episode, I had the absolute pleasure and the most fun to sit down with my dear friend and training partner, Coach Nenem. Coach Nenem has been training Jiu-Jitsu for about 10 years now, maybe a little over 10. And I do have an update for you though, because at the time of the interview, when this was recorded, and you'll hear her say this, she says she's a 4-stripe purple belt. However, she recently has been promoted to brown belt. So now she is a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So that's just a little update for you when you get to that part at the beginning of the interview. She's no longer purple belt, she is a brown belt. I really had a good time talking with Coach Nenem. I always have a good time talking with Coach Nenem. We've been friends for years, and I really enjoyed hearing her perspective. I love hearing her talk. I love the stories that she tells. And so I think it was a really great thing that we were able to capture this interview. She's as you're going to hear this, she's an extremely busy woman. I am so glad that I was able to capture like an hour and a half of her time to have this interview with me. So I'm very grateful. This is a really amazing interview, and so without further ado, let me share that with you now. This is Coach Nenem. All right, I'm here with Coach Nenem. Woo! Woo-hoo. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yay, I'm so excited that you're here.
Finally.
I know. Okay, so for the podcast audience, can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Coach Nenem. I'm currently a purple belt, 4 stripes, and I belong to Gracie Baja Downers Grove. I've been training for 10 years on and off, so...
Yeah, now I know, okay, so here's the thing. I think a lot of people, before wanting to start this kind of commitment, because I've said before in previous episodes, it takes like an average of 10 years to get a black belt, and people are like, oh, that's such a long time. But, no, you've been training for 10 years, but you're not a black belt yet. Can you please, if you're comfortable, can you please sort of describe, like, what sort of life events have been happening, if you're comfortable with it, to sort of have the 10 years of training and be a purple belt currently?
So for me, the journey is a little bit different, just like everybody else. There's always something happening in life. But we always come back to the mats. For me, I had 2 ACL reconstructions surgeries, and I also had a baby. So that definitely took some time off. But I'm back. I always come back.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. Okay. Now, this is in my list of questions, but it's near the end of the list. Is it okay if I just jump right there, since you just mentioned you had a baby? You are the only woman I know personally who started training before you ever had kids, and then got pregnant and had a baby, and you're still training. Can you please talk about your personal experience with being pregnant and like having a baby while you're also still training? Can you talk about that? Just because I think for a lot of women, I don't know if they either like their life circumstances just kind of make them sort of quit after having kids, or maybe they think that they can't really do both, or it's hard to manage. Can you please talk about your personal experience with that?
Of course. So I think this definitely is something that's kind of unique. And from time to time, I see on social media, ladies will be asking the question, should I stop training once I get pregnant, or what should I do? For me, it started it wasn't expected. So we've been trying for a while and nothing had happened. So I said, hey, I'm the youngest of Master 2. I think this is my year, because 5 years of difference does make a difference when it's coming to your gas tank. So I said, let me direct my energy. I want to go for the World Masters. Youngest Master 2 is my shot. So as soon as I started training, it was 4 months before the tournament, the baby happened. So the first thing I did was I went to her dad. I go, well, by the time World Master comes in, she will be the size of an avocado. So if I can put an avocado in my pants and train daily and don't smash it, can I still compete? That was my first thought process. I didn't want to stop.
Yeah.
Is when you really hook on something, that's definitely something that's ingrained in your everyday routine, and stripping that away is a really tough decision. So for my sanity and for his safety, we decided to keep me on the mats.
Okay. So I know there's probably going to be a bunch of people out there being like, oh, that's so dangerous. You're putting yourself and your child at risk, blah, 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 blah. How did you keep yourself and your baby safe while you were training?
So the hardest part, I would say, is first trimester, because you're not supposed to tell anybody that you're pregnant, for various reasons.
Yeah.
But for me, because I was training every single day at such a high intensity, it's really hard for me to keep that as a secret.
Yeah.
So the first thing I did was I spoke with the head instructors to let them know that I wish to stay on the mats. So I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to make that happen. But with their help, please keep me on the mats safe. And then, just having their support is so critical. And then what I did was the first trimester, because I can't say much just yet, I selected a handful of close friends. I think there was maybe 5 people at the most, and I let them know what's happening and asked them for their consent to be the helper to make it through this journey together. So they agree. They partner up with me whenever I'm on the mats. We have certain things like I cannot be in bottom side control. I cannot be in bottom mount, definitely. And then there are only so many things where we can do. So they're very cautious. If we ever get into certain positions where I'm the bottom taking pressure, they will alleviate the pressure, like moving their hips up higher while not putting all their weight. And then once we make it through first trimester, it became a little bit easier because now it's no longer a secret. And people know it's their choice if they wish to train with me, because I don't want to be taking their time away when they could be training at the intensity they wish to. But this team has been so supportive. I of course I pick more of a higher belts to train with, and they know what not to do. They flow nicely. They don't put weight when they shouldn't. So second trimester was great, and I'll say the toughest one is third trimester because I'm so big. I can't even close guard. Like, you would think it doesn't matter, but your space become limited. So third trimester, I do a lot of drills.
I remember that, yeah.
So if I roll with somebody, I will always be doing top position, which quickly gets boring because there's only so many things you do when they don't even try to defend. So I do a lot of drills to keep myself kind of sane. And then I'll do rubber band drills. I do solo drills as much as I can.
Yeah.
So that helped me a lot because stripping that jiu-jitsu away completely when you train 6 days a week, cold turkey, I don't think that's healthy for anybody. But to do what I did, you definitely need the support from the instructors as well as your teammates. Definitely. I wouldn't be able to make it through without them.
Yeah, and I think that's, I've heard parents in general talk about how important it is to have a support system when they're going through pregnancy and then after the childbirth and everything too. So I'm really glad that we were able to provide that for you.
Yeah.
Now I've never trained anywhere else, so I don't know what it would be like anywhere else, but I just know that with the culture that we've cultivated together, it's, we really are kind of like a family, brothers and sisters. We don't want to hurt each other. We want to respect each other, and so I think that also, I mean, hearing you say that it was really frustrating when getting boring and stuff, when it was nobody wanted to defend, nobody wanted to hurt you or the baby. You're like, I'm not causing any accidents here.
Yeah, because there's a lot of stress on them, right? They don't want to be the reason why something goes wrong. So I get it, and I think most of the gyms, if you bring it up to the instructors, for safety reasons, they will probably just tell you don't do it.
Yeah.
Because the stakes are high. But
for
me, if I lose my sanity, I think their head instructor is going to be in trouble. Can you imagine keeping me at home for 7 days a week not doing anything? Nope.
No, well, also knowing you would just show up anyway. And then everybody would be like, what are you doing here? You'd be like, I'm here to do stuff. I'm here to watch. I'm here to train. I'm here to drill. Stop me.
And that's kind of what I did with my knee surgeries, right? When I had my 2 knee surgeries, you see me on the mats a week after. Yeah. With my ice bucket still connected to my knee. And if I can't stand, if I'm either watching the classes or I'm doing rubber bands with my butt on the mats, just so I don't put pressure on it. There are different ways to learn jujitsu and have it, and be part of your life without having to always go for 100%. That's what we tell the students too. Watching is learning as well, and when you watch, there's so much more that you notice when you don't, while you're in the middle of the action.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Like, since we're still on the topic of pregnancy, childbirth, support systems, training, your child is turning 4.
She's turning 4 in December.
She's turning 4. That's what I thought. If I have my math right, she should be turning 4. Now, over the past almost 4 years, how have you been able to still maintain some training while raising a child and having a full-time job? Like, you're a very busy woman. Very busy. And I'm sure there's tons and tons and tons of women out there who relate to your situation of having a full-time job, being a full-time parent, like, and then trying to do this thing. Like, how have you personally, so just because, disclaimer, just because she's talking about what works for her, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for everybody. So, take what works and leave what doesn't. But what is your personal experience? How have you been able to still maintain training while having a child and working full-time and everything?
It's definitely not easy, because, like I always say, God only gives us, everybody, 24 hours a day, and nobody's having extra. And the more we carry on, the more we have to kind of split ourselves, into different direction. But for me, jiu-jitsu is kind of it's not a hobby, it's a passion. Yeah. So it's different because it's not my choice to go, well, I'm just going to drop this for my child, or it's not a priority, it is a priority. So when something is a priority in your life, you make time for it. It's not easy though, because being an immigrant, my parents are not here. I don't have family here. All I have was friends. Yeah. Although I do have on Professor's side, there's her dad and her mom. It's still very limited because I can't count on a 70-something-year-old to be watching the baby on a daily basis. Yeah. And I want to spend time with my child too. Yeah. For me, I find balancing is so important. I want time for my kid because growing up, my parents are very busy, and I feel like I missed out a bit of childhood with them, and that's not a mistake I want to make with her. So I committed to at least training 2 days a week. Saturdays I have help with a close friend who's also a babysitter for my daughter, so that way I can go to the competition team training. Thursdays, it helps me commit when I commit to teaching. So when I pick up the responsibilities to teach GB1 class, it makes sure that I'm there, and then get some active hours on the mats. And then slowly, if I have extra support when everybody's available, I hop on the mats again on Monday. But at the same time, I have to be very strategic with how that time goes, because when I get home, it's not just about, I'm going to go for a shower, I'm going to go eat something, I'm going to relax. No. When I get home, is how soon can I get this baby to bed without having, discounting her hours of sleep that she needs to be able to function the next day. So it's always a lot of planning, like, what's dinner going to be like? Can I get this one step ahead? Or can somebody take care of her shower so that way we can get her to bed? So 2 to 3 times a week, but that's definitely with the support of all the resources I can scramble up with.
Yeah, and I think that's been a common theme that I've heard from parents. I'm not a parent, but that I've heard from parents and like other people as well, that really the only way to kind of successfully balance everything is with a support system. People can't do this on their own. And I think I just want to put that out there into the world, that I think people sometimes think like, oh, I should be able to XYZ, but I don't think we're supposed to be doing all this stuff on our own.
Right.
Like, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to have support and help from other people. And so I'm really glad that you have that support system, because I'm glad that you're still on the mats, because
sure.
I think there's been a couple of people that I know that had like some ladies through the years who have like come and gone and like just kind of left or sort of disappeared, or maybe they moved, or I don't know, but after they had a baby, we didn't really see them again.
It's
which is sad.
Tough. Yeah.
Because I really like them. I want them to train. But everybody's life is different, and everybody's resources are different, access to resources. But I kind of want to make the point, I guess, is that you went from pre-baby training 6 days a week,
Mm-hmm.
high intensity, to now currently post-baby, about 4 years post-baby,
Mm-hmm.
to training 2 days a week consistently.
Yep.
Sometimes a third.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to kind of make the point that, like, your training time has been reduced, but you're still training.
Right.
It's just training looks different right now.
Mm-hmm. Even the way I train changes, because before the baby, if I get hurt, I can afford the time off, because I can take time off of work, I can take time off of mats, that's fine. But when you have a little one relying on you, it's not an option. So the way I train has been more gentle. I'm more selective of who I train with, the intensity, the preparation to my body. And quite frankly, having a baby changes your body. Everybody says, your body's never the same, and I feel it. My gas tank, how my muscle feels, my joint feels, everything changed. So you have to be adaptable. But the good thing is that with jiu-jitsu, it is meant to be adaptable, right? Not all the techniques that we teach in the fundamental class works for you, but as you grow, you kind of figure out what works and how you have to change around how your body, it corroborates.
Exactly.
So definitely not only my schedule, but the way I change and my mentality towards training changes as well.
Yeah. Okay, so kind of moving away from the pregnancy childbirth aspect of it, can we kind of get into your personal story?
Sure.
What was sort of the impetus, the reason why you decided to train jiu-jitsu in the first place?
Be honest, well, I hope this doesn't get held against me, but I actually started kickboxing before I found jiu-jitsu. And it's not the kickboxing where you're just kicking the bags and the bags don't move. I keep telling people, don't get delusional that you're really a badass, if I can say that on the podcast, because the bags don't move.
Yeah.
So what I was doing is I was training with a mixed martial artist, and I was training for a ring fight, and I have a partner and all that, so we train very well. But occasionally when I need to get my cardio out, I went to what we call title kickboxing. It's a bag that doesn't move, but it helps me get just some of the drills and head movements in. And one day, right across the corner, I see another guy who is also not your average kickboxing person. Like, he knows what he's doing as well, so we kind of know each other's existence. One day he came over and started talking to me. Turns out his name is Professor Liu. He was the head kickboxing instructor at Gracie Barra Downers Grove. And he said, I noticed that you have a passion with this, but in order to have a well-rounded martial arts experience, you should also consider doing groundwork. I go, what's groundwork? If I can do knock them out, why do I need ground? He said, just come over to Gracie Barra Downers Grove. It's my where I train jiu-jitsu. We also have kickboxing program that I instruct, so maybe that can be something of a next step for you. So I went there, and I spoke with the manager, and I'm only interested in kickboxing because I still don't understand jiu-jitsu just yet. The first time I saw a class, I couldn't understand. I go, you guys look like pandas rolling around. What is the whole point? It's just two people rolling around. I can't understand the joint controls. I can't understand the grips. All I see is people just sweating, panting, and just rolling around with white geese look like white pandas. So I couldn't understand. But the manager said, well, the membership for kickboxing is $179. Black belt program that includes kickboxing and jiu-jitsu is $199. What do you want to do? I go, $20? Sure. I'll give it a try. Let's see what happens. But then as I spent more time on the mats, it started to occur to me that this is something that is not just your journey. And I enjoy the interactions we have with other people. You meet different people. They enrich your life, not only on the jiu-jitsu part, but also becoming a friend. When you train close contact sports, there's no way that your relationship stays on the surface level. We start building friendships, and I start understanding how this is intelligent. It is something that's forgiving. For example, one day I was sparring in the kickboxing class. It was a spinning back kick. By the time I see that foot so close to my face, there's no way around. So I got a ruptured eardrum, and it made me start thinking, so if I'm in my 30s and I'm putting myself out there, when I still have to be able to hold on a job and be able to provide for what I need, I don't have a kid back then, but it still occurred to me that I need something that's forgiving, that I can just say, all right, you got me, or I messed up. Can I learn from it? Can we try again? Jiu-Jitsu offers you that. So when you tap, you can restart. And that was something that really stuck with me, and wanting to understand the art more and more.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
The 179 or the
No, like just kind of everything that you said about like the realizing that jujitsu is adaptable, it's forgiving, it's you can be intense or you can be like super relaxed and gentle. Like it flows like water, you know? You're like bamboo, you bend but you don't break, you know? It's just beautiful to see that, like, because I think there's a lot of or at least maybe this is just my perception from social media or whatever, but I kind of get the feeling that people tend to think that martial arts are all about like being like the tough and the intensity and like the beating other people up and whatever, and like, you know, especially with striking arts. Now I don't do striking arts, so this is probably just a huge misconception, so apologies. But this is the perception that I have, is that like with striking arts, you know, it's that you have to be like stronger, you have to be like quicker, which makes sense, but then you also have to be like, I don't know, super intense and like really hard and all this kind of stuff. And I think it's nice to hear from somebody who started in the striking art that when you discovered jiu-jitsu, you discovered all of the things that jiu-jitsu can offer and how it can also benefit you.
Right.
I don't want this to be like misconstrued as me trying to diss striking arts. I'm not doing that, because I also did kickboxing. I did a little taekwondo, like back in college now, and I loved it. I did boxing, I did kickboxing and stuff like that. So you know, there's beauty in those arts too. But I think what has stuck with me with jiu-jitsu for so long, because you've been training for 10 years, I'm coming up on 8 in January, and I think I really have to think that if I had just only done striking arts, I don't know if I would have lasted this long.
Okay.
Just because of the toll it takes on your body.
I think everybody has a different path, right? Just like how we have different taste buds for the food we like. It works for some people, that's good for them. But I think it doesn't hurt to try, because you never know until you invest a little bit more time and figure out which sport, which art, you know, draws most of your passion towards.
That's true. Well said. Now, let me ask you this. Speaking of jiu-jitsu and, you know, coming into the world of jiu-jitsu from, you know, a striking background or whatever, over the last 10 years, what are some of the lessons that you've learned through jiu-jitsu?
Oh, that's a lot. Because before the interview, we're just talking about our white belt years, our puppy years.
Baby, I call my little baby white belt. I was baby white belt back then.
Right, and I think it definitely, we see each other mature a lot through this journey, and I would say a couple of things that really resonate with me is that it not only teaches you how to be strategic, think and be able to think about how do you conquer something without using your strength. One of the things that really jump into my head these days is because I started teaching the GBF program, which is a Greece Baja female program. It's designed to help ladies to find comfort on the mats before they go into full-on fundamental curriculum, because it is intimidating for female. Really I remember, in our white belt years, I was looking around, I go, I'm keeping this guy between my legs and nobody's explaining to me what is happening. That's awkward, but sure, I think everybody's doing it. But then you learn it that way, and now I'm able to tell the ladies, it's not about that we're trying to pull a John Wick move or that just looks so fantastic on point on the screen. It's about teaching you how you can be in control physically and mentally when you're so vulnerable. And I see jiu-jitsu, I've never been in a street fight. I've never in a situation where somebody assaulted me, so I consider myself fortunate about it. But as the jiu-jitsu, what that impacts me the most is actually mentally, because I struggled a lot for a few years with my career. I don't work well with somebody on my team, and that person happened to be in a position of power. So for me, and also the way I was raised, I spent 23 years in Asia before I came to the States and started my life over here. So my natural tendency is non-confronting. Whenever I see something or hear something, it's always my first instinct to be quiet, to not confront or to challenge. But jujitsu, it's not that I confronted her with my verbal jujitsu, but it helps me understand to see past things on the surface. Just like a hand reaching over to your lapel doesn't mean it might be a bait. You gotta watch out. So it trains your mind to think, okay, this is just a service level. The way you're talking to me does not degrade who I believe, what I'm worth, and how I'm loved and supported. It's just how you manifest your feeling about it. And I'm a person of worth. I'm a person who has power, and I can control my emotion when you cannot. So it teaches me how to do that emotional jiu-jitsu at work, which helped me survive through some of the tougher years. So that was the one biggest thing. And then of course the other parts would be, it really helped me break through some of the boundaries that I grew up with. Because growing up in Asia, martial arts is something more for boys. And it's kind of a gender thing. We're a few steps behind. We still have that framework around what a boy should be and how a girl should act. And I remember I was in elementary school, 5th or 6th grade, and I see these boys doing, I don't know, taekwondo, karate, kicking and punching. I go, that is awesome. I see beauty in it. It's not the roughness, but I see the beauty in formation. And I want to be part of that. But my parents' feedback was, you're a girl, that's what boys do. So when I came to this country and when I first found kickboxing and later jiu-jitsu, my parents couldn't understand it. But then when they see how I handle myself, the confidence I have, the calmness of my brain over my emotion, which is something they don't experience when growing up, when I grew up there, that changed me because it makes me somebody who's more grounded, who understand how to control things in my life in different aspects. So that's something that a girl, like the other day, we went to Niagara Falls with my parents and my little one.
I remember that. Yeah.
It was a nice trip, but then we're leaving the park. So there's a reserve area right close by the falls. We're leaving the park and we're crossing the street. There's a giant cross path for pedestrians. And the car just like glide right by it in front of me while I'm carrying my 3-year-old in my arms. And they have the back window rolled down. So I have no problem just to look at them through the window and say, thank you for not stopping. And my parents behind me, they're in shock because they were who I was. They go, how do you have, we would never expect you to say that. I said, yeah, because you remember me for who I was. But here, with jiu-jitsu, we know when to voice for yourself in a calm manner, but straight to the point. You know, you're not looking for competition. I'm not saying, hey, get out of the car, or you stink.
Like you're not trying to start a fight necessarily, but you are making your displeasure known.
You can stand for your voice.
Yeah, calling attention to their stupid decision.
Yeah. So it helps me in different things when I try to kind of marinate myself into this culture, because this culture is definitely very different from the one I grew up in. And I learned that you have to voice yourself, otherwise nothing would ever be addressed or noticed. But at the same time, how you voice yourself jiu-jitsu helps you phrase and shape that conversation.
Yeah. And I would say I've also experienced that too. I have told other people this. I think I had talked to Kia about this before. I might have talked to you about this before too, like privately, obviously off the air, but during confrontations, I always, especially if I was upset about something, I would get so, my emotions would be so big that they would literally like almost choke me, that I couldn't say anything. I would just start crying. And then I couldn't really voice what I wanted to. And so a lot of the time, depending on the person I was like arguing with, they would take that as a sign that I was
weak.
Well, maybe weak, but also that like I didn't have anything more to say.
Okay.
And so then they would start kind of talking in their piece, but meanwhile I wasn't done yet, But that was kind of pre-jiu-jitsu. Post-jiu-jitsu, I'm the one that does a lot of the talking now in an argument, because now I'm able to kind of rein that in. I can control that. I can fuel that in a different way. So I can get myself, and like my brain and my emotions are in sync now, and I can like say what I need to say, and I can like, I don't kind of I don't let myself be sort of manipulated.
Okay.
Or like emotionally, mentally manipulated. I can see people's arguments for what they are, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Or I can do it better now. I'll be like, well, you're just projecting that on me. That's not my fault. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
Like, which is like life-changing for me. I never would do that before, ever. I always internalized. Every time somebody said that, like, I was doing something wrong, I just was like, oh, I guess I did do that wrong. You know? Or if they were just like, oh, well, you doing this is like, you're doing that wrong and that wrong and that wrong or whatever, and that's why I reacted how I did, or whatever, you know? Yeah. And then I would just internalize that and just be like, oh, I guess I am, you know, whatever. And then I would try to change myself, and like I could never just sustain that because that's not how I am. And then eventually would devolve into, you know, whatever, the same old song and dance.
Yeah.
And now post jiu-jitsu, I can say my piece and I can stand up for myself a lot better, which is amazing. I love that. I love like being able to really, because now that I'm not like just breaking down crying all the time, I can actually get out what I need to say, and the other person can hear me, and then I can sit there and listen to what they're saying, and instead of taking it as a personal attack, I can be analytical about it.
Okay.
And then we can reach a much more, like, I don't know, harmonious agreement now. It's just so much better.
That's something people don't see. They only see us in the gi, like we're gripping each other, we're trying to simulate murder on the mats. But that's not all that is about, right? To your point, I also noticed it helps me see through people much easier. And that goes back to one of the interesting things I didn't understand in my earlier jiu-jitsu years. Professor Carlos said, everybody can wear a mask off the mats, but when they come on the mats, they can't keep it up. They show who they truly are when they're on the mats. And you feel it too. I feel it too. How they are and how they interact. And we see that in other people, even though they're not training with us. We can very easily cut through, okay, this is kind of who we are. Are we going to be friends? Are we not? How much are we going to go deep into this relationship? It helps you understand that, see through that much better. It's like a superpower.
Yeah. I think, like, I can't stress enough the importance or the benefits of both of the mental aspect of jiu-jitsu, you know, like the mental and emotional benefits it gives people. It's not just physical either. Every single person I've talked to on this podcast has said some version of what you just said. They've all had mental, emotional, you know, blossoming or shifting or some sort of like deeper understanding of themselves thanks to jiu-jitsu. Wow. I know. I mean, myself included.
That's pretty cool.
You know, like the thing with the arguing or whatever.
Yeah. See?
Yeah.
We should get more people to train.
We should. We should. Jiu-jitsu's for everybody. Okay, so the other side of that coin. The one side is like the benefits. The other side, some challenges. What are some challenges you faced in your jiu-jitsu journey?
I really think about it as the negative side of it, but I do think it puts some pressure on you when you're mingling with other people who doesn't understand. For example, at work, like I can talk to you about jiu-jitsu all day. I can talk to normal people who's interested, but when it comes to work, it's really hard for people to understand. And I felt sometimes I have to steer away from saying that, because the challenge is people might see it as, well, you're devoting so much to this, that means you're taking time away from that. And that's why, you know, my social media posts, you probably noticed I rarely repost things of like what's happening with our school, events that's coming up, because I don't want people to consider that if I ever have a bad day at work, that's because, no, I'm putting my energy elsewhere. So I think it creates a little barrier for me when it comes to work. I just don't feel like I can be as transparent of who I am and what my passions are, because most people don't understand it. But other challenges I don't see as much when I'm on the mats. I have to say, every time I step on the mats, I'm always a happier person when I step off, even if I don't train. There are days when I'm there just to teach. Even if I don't train, I felt there's so much more amazing things that just happen in our lives, that we have those little tiny bubbles that clicked. So yeah, I don't feel like there's a lot of challenges other than like my professional world where I can't be as transparent as I like to be.
And I have to wonder if a lot of other women are in kind of your same boat
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to career professions and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
and the sort of work culture where it's like, well, if you're spending so much time doing that, then obviously you're not devoting enough time to this type of a thing. Thank God that I was not in those types of work situations.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel for those who are, because it's just like, well, you have to have a balance in your life. You can't just only work.
Mm-hmm.
And my opinion is that any company that's expecting you to basically only work is okay. Any company that's expecting you only to work is misguided,
Mm-hmm.
because humans can't do that. You have to have a balance. And so if you're also spending your non-work hours pursuing your passions, I honestly don't know what the problem is there.
I think the most recent one would be when I can't even remember if it's April or March of this year. I signed up for the IBJJF Chicago Open. I was really excited because I competed a lot before the baby.
Yeah.
And after the baby, competition hasn't been quite an option yet.
Yeah.
Not that I can't make one day out of my life to be on the mats and put myself out there. It's the preparation.
Yeah, competition is a lot of preparation.
Yeah, I don't have the ability to commit to what I need to do in order to be prepared. So when I brought it up, it was kind of new because for me it's a new chapter. I was excited. I kind of shared a little bit with my colleagues at work, and I get a feeling of like they're concerned. They're concerned that because I had a history of 2 knee surgeries, right? That's all within the same company.
Yeah.
So they know that I took time off, and they're like, so you're gonna put yourself out there? Is this dangerous? Are you gonna be safe? Are you gonna be okay? That kind of concern. So that's why I kind of take it back and not share as much, because I understand for them there's a different set of values for me to be there versus my personal pursuit.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
Well, it depends. It's not that, no, it's not just hobby. It's not something that you just go train. There are different levels of engagement.
Yeah,
for
and
everybody.
I think I was talking, who was I talking to? It was Diana, I think, or Kulsum. No, I think it was Diana in her, and when I chatted with her, that she had asked me, like, why do certain people stay and certain people don't? And at the time, I think I was like, I'm not prepared for this question, so I kind of had to say the thing that like came to the top of my head. But I think throughout me trying to answer that question, she was like, well, why do some people stick with it longer? And what I had said, I believe, was that it kind of depends on how you look at it. Like for some people it's just like a thing that they do, there's like you said, a hobby. But for other people it is what they do,
right?
Like it's like I am a jiu-jitsu person, like I do jiu-jitsu, I live a jiu-jitsu lifestyle, I choose jiu-jitsu over like other things or whatever. Like it's different,
right?
So I think it's kind of hard to explain when you are like a jiu-jitera, versus I do jiu-jitsu sometimes kind of a thing, like whatever, blah blah blah. But so I think for people who aren't used to interacting with people like us, they don't really get it, because they're just like, oh well, why are you, it's just a hobby, because like I think maybe for other people, maybe people would really like to do their hobbies more because they like them. But I think
do it alone.
Yeah, but like I think for other people it's just like, well, this is just a hobby. Like, why would you put yourself in danger for a hobby? But it's not a hobby.
I wish these people have found their circle sooner.
Yeah.
Because so from an instructor's perspective, the way we look at it is, if you want to be able to tell if a school is safe or not, and I mean that matters for people 30 and above, right? Because our body basically stops preparing yourself after 30. So all the aches, they don't go away after a night of sleep.
No, seriously, I'm 36. I'm like, I don't know, I'm feeling it.
I'm going to be Master 3 next year, so definitely important. But the way we look at it is, if you want to be able to tell if a school is safe or not, look at the number of ladies they have on the mat. Look at the number of, 40 plus, I'm going to be one of them, 40 plus on the mats, because that tells you how that community treats people who is not, 20-year-old, have all the energy and have the time to spare people who can actually dedicate themselves much more. So a lot of women that I've seen come and go is that they didn't find that support system before somebody else ruins their experience. So we will see, okay, well, it's just too much on my body, somebody's not being nice. So a lot of times, right, jiu-jitsu is for people that are smaller to be able to use their techniques and mindset to defeat or defend against somebody who's bigger. But a lot of times when they jump into GB1 class, guess what happens? They're in the sea of white belts, and white belts are the. I'm sorry. I've been a white belt too, so I can say this.
Too.
White belt is the worst to train with.
Okay, white belts don't know their own strength, and I am raising my hand because I was exactly like that. I am pretty strong, I think.
You are.
And I definitely didn't know my own strength. I was way overusing strength in my baby white belt days. For 100%, I was doing that. And then I had to learn how not to.
Yeah, it takes time. We all been there, but for a lady that is fairly new and maybe she's done more gentle sports before, this is definitely something new. And then the frustration will just build up so quickly. Yeah. If they don't have that support group. So for us, I think it's really good that we're doing the GBF classes.
I'm so glad we have that.
And we also have the group chat. So even though not everybody comes out to hang out, but we put all the ladies in one WhatsApp group chat. And then we, during nice days, we put something together. Maybe we go for brunch. Maybe we go, what do we do? Zipline?
It was that zipline adventure park.
So
I am proud of myself. I did all 5 of those courses because I kept telling myself the only way out is through. I have to finish this.
Good.
On the 5th one, I was starting to get kind of nervous. And I was like, well, it's too late to go back now. Yeah. I just got to finish it.
I'm glad you went, but that's the way we make ladies bond, right? Yeah. So when we get together, we can talk. We don't have to talk about jiu-jitsu, but...
No, we don't have to. I mean,
we
kind of inevitably do
talk, yes.
Yeah, we can talk about anything.
But then they will understand that the frustration or the challenges they're facing, we've all been there. And then things that they feel, maybe some of them judge themselves too quickly. I always tell them, hey, nobody's born to know how to do hip escape. It is tricky. Like, we do it naturally now, but it is so tricky when we first started. You're not alone. How can I help? Can we do it together? Can we, help you get there? Yeah. So it's a very impressive support group, and I wish the ladies who couldn't continue on this journey had found that support group much faster.
Yeah, I think that is so important too. It's, the representation, the support system, and I don't want this to come across as like the guys aren't great, because we have really great guys there. Yeah. They're very supportive, and they do a really great job of like adjusting their intensity and stuff like that when they're working with us, which I appreciate. But it's just, they're just not women. Like, it's just not the same.
Our bodies built differently.
And so it's just nice to have the chance to talk with people who truly understand what it's like to train jiu-jitsu and the types of bodies that we have. So I'm sorry, guys, like, y'all are great, but it's just this is one thing you just can't understand.
Our body is built so differently. So for example, this past Thursday, I was teaching the GBF curriculum, and we're teaching them bottom side control escape. So the hip bump, creating that space and hip out to get that knee and knee shield in. I find some of the ladies couldn't do it because their partner is so much bigger. And then one of the things I learned that I could offer them is from my experience. I would say, okay, when you hip bump and you hip out, one of the most important things is you don't stay flat. When you're small, especially when you're smaller and you're in the bottom situation, whether if that's bottom side control or bottom mount, you do not stay flat. If you find your shoulder blades on the ground, you need to move and curl to the side, and that made a whole world of difference. And imagine how many ladies were not being offered that, and they just bump and bump and bump. Their partner is just so heavy. They go, this technique doesn't work. Maybe I'm not meant for jiu-jitsu. Maybe I'm just too small. Those self-doubts start coming in when a higher belt or instructor could have helped guide them a little bit to teach them how to actually take advantage of jiu-jitsu as a smaller person. So sorry, you guys are great guys.
No, seriously though,
different body types.
You guys are great. I'm a lot of times, well, not anymore right now, because Kia comes to a lot of the morning ones. And sometimes Diana's there too, but for a long time I was the only woman in the morning classes, and
sometimes it gets lonely, but like, you know, like the guys are great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't want this to come across as like these guys suck. No, they don't. They're really great.
Mm-hmm.
There's just something intangible about having another woman there
Mm-hmm.
to train with, to talk to commiserate with, that just makes that much of a difference.
So you're coming to the GBF classes Monday and Thursday now?
Would you
Would
like
love to
to
have you.
take over my work schedule? Because I have work. I work.
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My work schedule is kind of opposite what everybody else's is. I work in the evenings. I'm not in the mornings.
I know. That's
I
why we
know.
don't get to train together
I
as
know,
much.
because you work in normal person's hours.
Yeah, I work 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And then 3-year-old.
And then you're taking care of a 3.5-year-old.
But it's really impressive. Like, we are, the two of us is probably the two most senior members of the school, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, Kia started before I did. But
she's been there a long time.
Yeah, but she's been on and off. Like, she took some years off. Like, not months. She took some years
Yeah,
off.
well, because she had stuff going on. I think she had moved. I have her conversation. I have to re-listen to it. But yeah, I think she talked about that. I think she moved at one point.
And her work schedule shifts a lot.
Yeah,
but
she does have a very dynamic job. Yeah.
For ladies that lasted as long as the three of us had, there's definitely a lot of challenges and a lot of learnings that we can offer other ladies and encourage them on. Because I think the benefit of jiu-jitsu is definitely something that you have to see in the long run.
Yeah.
It's not like I jump in and look, within 1 month I lost 50 pounds. Not like that.
I mean, some people might, but that's not really.
That's not what it's about.
Yeah, that's really not what it's about.
Yep.
So, kind of bringing everything full circle, I feel like if this question hasn't already been answered, if you can kind of distill this down into a piece of wisdom, what would you say to women who are still maybe nervous or still hesitating about starting jiu-jitsu?
I think you never know and understand all the wonderful things we just shared if you never took the opportunity to step on the mats. I know it's intimidating. I know it's hard because we've seen so many ladies that, you know, rode with us along the way for a while and just kind of rolled off on their different path. But the benefits of jiu-jitsu is something that I want my daughter to have. And if it's something so important that I want to make sure she has for the rest of her life, you should definitely try. Because it's like we said, it's not just about the physical aspect, the mental side, the ability to empower you. When we talk about empowerment, we see a lot of like a one-off self-defense workshop saying empowerment. That's not how it works. Empowerment comes from a long time of installment, putting yourself with the right people, in the right community, doing the things that will benefit you mentally and physically. So jiu-jitsu is that wonderful, and if you have the opportunity, you have the chance, please do give it a try and understand that, you know, finding that community, finding other ladies will help you along the way.
Definitely. Well said.
And come to the GBF curriculum.
Yes.
We have it Monday and Thursday night.
Yeah, Gracie Baja Downers Grove.
Yes.
Yes. So where can people find you on social media?
Oh, social media, I honestly, with like a full-time job, trying to train, and a 3-year-old, I'm not very active on social media. But if you want to find me, come to Gracie Baja Downers Grove, Gracie Baja East Naperville. You will always find my footprints there, and then we love to see you on the mats.
Yay. All right, thank you so much for being here. This was great.
Thanks for having me.
All right. I really hope that this has resonated with you in some way, you know, whether you're a woman or not. And I really appreciate Coach Nenem's insights. I really appreciate her honesty and openness. And I just, like I said in the beginning, I'm just really grateful that she was able to sit down with me and chat with me about this. Now, getting into some housekeeping items, there's a few things that I need to tell you. The first thing is that I actually have a review from Apple Podcasts that I'd like to read to you. This is by Ray J 1991, and the title is Education and Insightful. Ray J 1991 says, I am a 30-plus-year-old woman who has thought about getting into a martial art for a while now, but I've been hesitant because of my age and because I wasn't sure which martial art to do. This podcast has made me confident in choosing jiu-jitsu and gave me the courage to start at age 32. In addition to that, it's been super helpful with advice on what to look for when picking a dojo, what to expect, and the culture. I am super excited to start and to continue listening. Thank you, Ray J 1991. Thank you so much for that really lovely review. I appreciate it very much. Now, if you would also like to have your review read out loud on the podcast, please leave me one. You can leave me a review on Apple Podcasts. So I'm on Spotify. Okay, so here's the deal. Apple Podcasts has a rating and a review feature where you just heard me read out that review. If you want to leave comments, and I can read them out for us on the next podcast episodes, you can write a few sentences there for whatever you think about the podcast. Now on Spotify, there's a rating feature, but there's not necessarily, at least as far as I know. Okay, side tangent, it might be on Spotify Premium, but I don't have Spotify Premium, so I'm just dealing with whatever's available to the free version. So, okay, back to the main thing. So Spotify has a feature where you can rate podcasts and episodes and stuff, but then there's an interact feature where you can answer a question or participate in polls. So there is that feature. I don't necessarily know if there's a review feature. Like I said just a minute ago, it might be on like Spotify Premium, but I don't have Spotify Premium. So anyway, so there's that. So leave me a rating and a review wherever it is that you're listening to podcasts. I personally have and use Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and so that's where I'm finding these reviews from. So if you'd like to have yours read out loud, please leave them there. If you don't want to leave a public review, but you feel like there's something that you need to tell me, you can get in contact with me in various ways. The first way is to email me. I have the podcast email, so jujitedaspodcast@gmail.com. You can send me an email there for whatever reason. If you're like, well, I don't really listen to like the podcast apps, or I do, but I don't want to create an account, like I just, whatever, I just want to like, bleh. So then if you do that, if you want to, you can message me on social media. I have 2 Instagram accounts. One is at Jujiteda, which that's basically just for me as the athlete. That one came first, and then when I started the podcast, I was trying to think about what to name my podcast. So I just like took my athlete Instagram handle and I just like made the podcast name from it. So there's at Jujiteda, which is me as the athlete, and then there's also at Jujiteda's podcast, which is obviously the podcast. So the DMs are open on both of those. If you want to send me a message on Instagram, you can do that. I also have a Facebook page, and there's like a Facebook profile with the page, but if I'm honest, the page is just a page. So the page is just for people who like to use Facebook to be notified of things. I don't really interact with things on Facebook very much. I kind of just post to the Facebook page all of the announcements that I also post on Instagram. So if you're not an Instagram person, if you're just like, whatever, I just follow the Facebook page because I think most people have Facebook now, then you can keep up with what's happening on the podcast through the Facebook page. Where else to find me? I have a Patreon. So I've been pretty active. I would say I've been a lot more active on Patreon. I've had some inspiration. I've got collections on Patreon of different videos and posts that I've made, audio tracks. On Patreon, for as little as $3 a month, you get early ad-free access to every single episode that goes live on the main feed. You also get access to bonus series. So White Belts and Up get access to the Spill the Tea series, where I get to gossip about my life once upon a time working in hospitality and all the crazy things that happened there. There's also the very first video in the, oh gosh, I should have named it something else, because now I feel like I can't say this name on the main feed, because my podcast has a clean rating. I can't, oh my god. I should have thought of this before. Anyway, okay, so if you have kids in the car or wherever, cover their ears for just a second. Okay, are they covered? So the second available to the white belt level, which is $3 or more a month, is called Jits Tits. Okay, you can uncover the kids' ears now. So that series is basically about awkward stuff that happens on the mats that I just kind of give little stories to. So those 2 extra series are available to all Patreon members at, $3 or more a month. Now there is also a third series that I've been doing that is available to blue belts and up, which is $5 or more a month, and that is the mental health chats series, where I basically just pop in and chat about mental health and how that's affecting me, my training, and things like that. So those are all exclusively on Patreon. Also, patrons on Patreon will get early notice of things. So for example, I actually just launched yesterday. So today is December 18th. I just launched yesterday my merch store. I launched my merch store. So basically the merch thing came about because I was just like, man, I really wish I had my logo on a t-shirt. I kind of just wish I could just like wear my logo around. I'm so proud of what I've done, like I'm really proud of myself, and I'm just excited. It's like I want to wear my logo on a t-shirt. And I was like, well, how do I do that? I don't know. So then I kind of stopped thinking about it. Then I was re-listening to some of my favorite podcast episodes. My 2 favorites are Vulgar History Podcast, hosted by Ann Foster, who is also a patron of mine. Thank you, Ann. And Queen's Podcast, hosted by Katie and Nathan. That one is definitely not for the kids, you guys. Queen's Podcast, they use a lot of curse words. Okay, so just be warned. But they're great. Anyway, so I was re-listening to these guys' episodes, and they all have merch too. I was like, wait a minute, these guys have merch with their logos on it. There's got to be a way to do this. So, so I found a way to make it happen, and I found a place to make this happen that wasn't super duper expensive, because I was trying to order my own merch, because I have to pay for it, and this one site that I originally was going to do, it actually was just, I just felt it was a little too expensive, so I switched to a different one that I think is a lot more reasonable. So that is at tpublic.com. So this is the one that I have my merch store hosted on. Right now the only logo, the only design I have is just the podcast logo. But I ordered myself a t-shirt. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. So if you also want my podcast logo on a t-shirt and you can wear it around, let people know that you listen, that's going to be at tpublic.com, and I will put a link to it down in the description, so you can just go straight to the link. Because I think each shop has a shop ID or whatever, but it's impossible to remember all that stuff. Did I tell you all of the things? There's email, 2 Instagrams, Facebook page, Patreon, merch. There's one more thing. Where else can you find me online? So I do have a page on buymeacoffee.com. Now I know that sometimes people like to monetarily support creators, but they don't necessarily want to do a whole monthly thing. They're just no, I just want to give you $5 and have it be done. So if that's the case, there is a one and done type of deal that buymeacoffee.com hosts. And so that's sort of their whole shtick, is that you can, if you choose, you can monetarily support a creator, and just once, a one-off type of deal, and not have it be a recurring thing out of your bank account or whatever. So So I do have a page on buymeacoffee.com. It is buymeacoffee.com/jujiterospod. Because podcast was too long, I had a character limit. Anyway, yeah, I think that's about it. Now, I keep hearing people try to be on all these different social medias and stuff, and I have to admit, like, every time I think I need to create a profile on one, I have to stop myself, and I have to tell myself, you can barely keep up with what you currently have. You don't need to be opening any more accounts. So I'm not anywhere else online except for the places I've just told you about. So if there's a profile on any of those other places that says that they're me, if I haven't told you about it here, then that is false. They are not me. Okay, so that's where I'm at. Now, this is very likely going to be the last episode of 2023. I am looking forward to coming back in January 2024. I will see you guys then. And I'm wishing everyone happy and healthy holiday season. Please be safe, whatever it is that you're doing, and make good choices. I will see you in the next one. Bye! Thank you so much for listening. If you would like to connect with me while you wait for the next podcast episode, find me on Instagram at Jujiteras Podcast and at Jujitera. I'm also on Facebook at Jujiteras Podcast. You could also email me at jujiteraspodcast@gmail.com. If you would like to support me in this podcast, you can visit me on Patreon at Jujiteras Podcast, where you get early ad-free access to all episodes, plus some bonus content. You could also find me on buymeacoffee.com at jujiteraspod. Thank you so much for listening. Remember to rate and review. See you next time.